Hey, welcome. Today I want to show you a method that I love to use to draw petals, leaves, and branches in a very organic and loose way that really feels very much like nature. This is a good example of what we're going to do, and we're going to do it in 4 different materials. So we'll use a pencil, we will use a brush pen, actual brush, not felt tip brush. We're going to use a felt tip pen. This is a Pentel Sign pen. And we'll use Neocolor 2, water-soluble pastel. I'm not going to use water on it today, but I'm going to use the crayon to show you ways that you can use that to achieve the same line. So you'll be able to use this method in a variety of different ways. It's very flexible. So first we're going to draw a rose, this rose, in these 4 different materials. So the gist of it is this. You're drawing, you're not holding with a death grip. You can hold it like this. You can hold it closer. I find that with this method, I like to hold it a little bit looser, a comfortable grip, not tight. Using your wrist in the motion, you're going to be slightly turning your pen or pencil or whatever you're using. You're going to be turning it slightly as you make your lines. So with each of the different materials we're going to use today, there's going to be slight variances in how you want to use them, and I will show you those as we get there. So for the pencil, we're just going to, looking at my photo for my reference, drawing the innermost petals here. And you see I'm just gently turning my pencil as I'm drawing my lines. And what you get is a very organic line that feels like the edge of a rose petal. You know how sometimes, depending on where the petal is within the flower, if it's on the innermost edges, maybe it has a different type of scallop than it has when it's on the outermost edges. And the innermost ones are smaller and the outer ones are larger, but they all have their own little texture. And some of your petals are folded over, rolled over. You know, you really get a nice, real feeling petal with this method. And it sometimes takes some practice to get the feel for this. But once you do, you're just gonna do it all the time because it's really fun. And your wrist is used too in this method. You're doing like kind of like a this movement instead of like, you know, a this movement. You're like really involving your arm and your wrist. You can use it as well to get the striations in your petals if you would like. You can also use it to get your shadow in the inner portion of your petal that is deep in the flower. You can do that too. So for today's purposes, we're not going to go too deeply into other aspects of the drawing of the flower. I really want to focus on the line and the marks that you can get, like turning. And I wanted to show you how you can get this effect with, you know, a variety of different materials. Because it's not the material, it's really like just the way that you use it and what you can do, how you can make it work for you. You know, you just make some slight changes to how you're utilizing your material and it can really change the output. So I'm drawing these both from the same flower, so I know they look different. It's because I'm really using the flower as a reference. I'm not using it for an exact match. I'm not drawing the exact flower. And I don't want to get off track here, but I find that for me, that takes me out of my art, out of my work zone, if I'm too focused on that aspect of my art. So there we are. This is with the Pentel Sign pen, which is a felt tip pen that has an exposed entire tip. There's no plastic around it anywhere, like they sometimes have on fine liners. So the third pen we're going to use is the Pentel Portable Pocket Brush Pen. This is a pigment ink brush pen with synthetic actual brush. When I turn, when I have it on its side, there's the surface area that the pen touches and makes marks with is much different than either of the above ones. This one requires kind of like a different, you know, strategy with tip, because the tip just operates differently than the other ones, which is really a whole, it's a whole other video in itself. But I just wanted to show you how I like to use this. And you can use the thicker parts to show shadows underneath. And you can use the tip of it to really get that fine line, the edge of the petal. And with these, I find a lot of your technique is going to be which direction your tip is going in, and also pushing versus pulling with these pens is important. It changes the way that they perform. So those are all different aspects of the brush pen. But you see how even though I'm holding it differently, I'm turning it still. I'm gently turning it as I am making my petals, and it gives me those cool little edges that petals can have. It also gives me the texture that I want. You'll see that each of these different materials that I do this method with sort of require you to have a different, understanding of the material in and of itself, but it's totally possible to use it with each of these materials and with other materials too. So it's a very flexible and fun method to use. Now let's do it with the Neocolor 2. I love using the Neocolor 2 because I love the texture and how the weight of the line and the strength of the line depends on the pressure that you put on it. You can get all different line weights and textures with this, but I like to have a bunch of my tip exposed. So in addition to doing the turning method, I also get to have the sides so I can make some interior shadows for the petals. You can see I'm turning my tool and getting these cool organic lines as I'm turning. And you can really hold this. I tend to hold the Neocolor like closer to the tip, but for the purposes of this video, I really should be holding it further away. And sorry about that. I hope that it's still visible for you. But sometimes when you hold it further away from the tip, you really get a more loose feel, a more loose look, and really fun to do this. It's very therapeutic actually. And with this side, I can just go in and put pressure right on the edge of the petal above it and go in and get some nice shadows and some good depth right there. So there we have it. There we have the bloom, the petals 4 ways. Let's do some branches and leaves next. So I'm just going to go in, and you don't even need a sharp pencil. See, you can use any kind of pencil. You just turn it just ever so lightly when you're applying pressure and you're making your line. And then I'm going to do a little bud up here, and another little bud over here, and then we'll do a leaf right here. Turning my pencil as I'm drawing, and see we're getting this nice organic look to my leaf. And then I can draw little veins in the leaves that way too. There we have it with the pencil. So let's try it again with the Pentel Sign pen, which is a felt tip. And you see, even just like turning it just ever so slightly gives you that really natural looking. It just really can change, make some, very noticeable changes in your art to just do this method, just to add it a little bit. You don't even have to do it like constantly. You can just, as you like. It's very flexible. And just drawing the edges on my leaves for the little vein up the leaf. I like to make it natural. And once you start doing this and you get more comfortable with it, you'll be doing it all the time when you're drawing plants. It's kind of addictive. It's a very fun way to organically and loosely draw your... Okay, let's do with the brush pen. Now this one I'm going to do a little bit differently. And again, because the rules of the tool are just sort of different, it's not going to be the same, using it the same as the pencil or the felt tip pen, but you do get some really cool effects. I'm going to do a leaf right here. I will say that the brush pen, because it works a little differently in terms of the expressiveness of the line as it is, it's almost a little wild. It's a little wild with this kind of detail. Like, you actually don't need to employ this method to get, the same amount of expression from this pen as you get from the other ones. Like, you have more natural expression with this pen than you do with these two. So it kind of requires less of the method, but you can mix it up, you can do what you like. Turning, making my leaf. Now I'm just holding it tight. Not tight, but more or less just holding it steady. So now I'm going to make my little bud here. See, I'm turning it as I'm drawing the little edges on the leaf. I'm turning and turning as I go. And it gives me this little bit of edge and gives me those little teeth with less work and less necessarily precision way of doing it. It's more organic looking, and it just feels more like nature to me than, if you really labored over every little bit. I hope that this video helped you today, and I hope that you enjoyed and learned a new little way to create very organic and loose petals, leaves, and stems. I hope that you'll give this method a shot. And if you do, come on back to this video, leave a message in the comments, and let me know how it's working out for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and have an awesome day. Bye-bye.